Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, me and John are going to be talking about the emotional detox subject matter. How did you say it? I forgot.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
All right, guys. So in our last video with Steven, we talked about a lot of things, but one of the major things we talked about was his emotional detox. And the response to that segment of the video was overwhelming. So John and I have decided to go ahead and do a full-length video where we talk specifically about emotional detox while water fasting and how it's going to affect your detox symptoms, and then also, you know, what you can expect after this emotional detox. So let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to get the ball rolling because now I've done a couple of videos where I've talked about emotional detox that I went through, but I'm going to do a little refresher for you guys just in case you haven't seen it or if you don't remember. When I did my 13-day water fast, at the time, I was dealing with what I call a rain cloud. I just had this feeling that something wasn't right. I wasn't as happy as I should be. And energetically, you know, in the energetic community, they'll say my vibration was really low. I could be happy in moments or instances, but overall, I don't know. It's really, really hard to explain. And maybe some of you guys have experienced it. It might just be a form of depression. I don't really know clinically how you would say it, but I didn't feel 100% happy, almost never. So in addition to the brain cloud that I had over my head, I also had some issues with ex-girlfriends and dealing with the emotional trauma that comes along with, you know, giving yourself to someone physically, mentally, spiritually, and then being kind of torn apart from that person and dealing with all of the aftermath. And I was actually dealing with emotional trauma from my relationship well over 6 years ago. And I only recently, within the past maybe 2 years, even became really cognitive of what was going on. Because a lot of times we have things happen in our lives and we don't even know, like it's all subconscious. You may have forgot about it consciously, but we remember things energetically, right? So our spirit man or our soul or whatever you want to call it, it remembers and records everything. So any trauma that you deal with in the past, it's still stored deep inside you. And sometimes it will affect you on the surface level and you have no idea where it came from. So fortunately, because I was able to realize, you know, the trauma that I had and, you know, I was able to pay attention to it when I was fasting, along with my dark rain cloud. I was just able to pay attention to these things. And one of the first signs that I noticed, and this is not something that I actually researched. This is just something that happened to me. So I'm just sharing my experiences with you guys. But I don't remember exactly what day it was. I would say it was probably between day 3 and day 8. When one day, just out of the blue, I started crying for no reason. I mean, nothing happened to me. I was sitting in my room, probably watching a YouTube video or something like that. And I just started bawling. And of course, you know, I'm going through my mind. I'm like, what's wrong with me? What's going on? And honestly, it didn't really click for me until after the fast. And all of a sudden, I realized that my brain cloud was gone. Also, right around that time, I had gone through something fairly traumatic with my ex-girlfriend, and for whatever reason, it just didn't bother me at all. Whereas before, it would have like destroyed me. And it was at that point in time I realized that the fasting wasn't just helping me on a physical level or a mental level. It was also helping me spiritually or emotionally in ways I could have never even comprehended. And this is why it's so important for you guys to do pure water fasting. When I talk about some of the other benefits of pure water fasting, these are some of the things I'm talking about. And they're things that no one can really specifically say how it's going to affect you, but we know that it's going to have a very, very positive impact. And yeah, it's just something you have to do in order to experience, and everyone's experience will be unique. So that's just kind of like an opening for, you know, what I went through. And we're going to go ahead and pass it over to John, because I know you guys are tired of hearing me talk. He's got his cowboy hat on, so you know he's in Texas right now. So John, what are some of the things that you experienced emotionally with fasting?
Well, when I started my fast, I don't know if you all know, but when I started, I was in a relationship, and I was overweight, I was unhealthy, diabetes, that whole thing. You've seen the videos. If you haven't, watch them.
I'm gonna put a card up.
Put the card up.
Put the card. I think it's gonna be right above my head, so y'all can go watch his video, because y'all need to check it out.
You need to check it out. But yeah, I was in a relationship. It was a very loving relationship. It was one that I thought that would be, the person I was going to end up with. But when I started the fasting process, I had noticed that there was this discord that was there. And that was hard, because I was torn. I wanted to be healthy, and I also wanted my girlfriend to be happy with where I was at and our relationship. So, that was difficult. And I noticed as time went on, I was focusing on my health. That was more important to me. And it should be important to you. And I wanted to say that it should be important to you, because you are the only person that's in your body. Mm-hmm. Nobody else will be. Your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. If their bodies are, if they're happy with where they're at, then that's great. But if you're not, and fasting is something that's helping you, and it's changing your life and in a very profound way, then it's something that you need to continue regardless of what they think, because again, they're not in your body, you are, and you're the one that's suffering. So for me, that was my driving force. That was my guiding light, and I needed to make sure I was staying on that. As I was fasting, I was noticing that there were just little things, just popping up. And I didn't understand why it was happening. And long story short, we ended up splitting. We broke up, and it was one of those things where I was very aware of what was happening. I knew that this was it was a good thing, not because I wanted our relationship to end, but because just where I was at, I was growing, and I was maturing. And it was weird, because at the time I was just about to turn 29. I was just about to turn 29, and they say that you are who you are pretty much when you're about 25. That's who you're going to be for the rest of your life, pretty much. But that last year, I had been undergoing massive changes due to fasting, and it changed everything. So I felt bad, because I was becoming a new person while in this relationship, and I thought that I wasn't going to be. So I was trying to learn who I was, and also trying to share that with my girlfriend at the time, and it just wasn't working. And so we ended up splitting. So I was so not used to it. I was able to compartmentalize everything so well that I didn't really feel it. I didn't mourn the ending of our relationship, because I understood everything that was going on. I just knew, okay, this is it. I mean, it's for the best, where I'm going, where she's going, what she wants, what I want. It's just not congruent anymore. And I was just it was difficult. I didn't want it to end, but I was okay. It was one of those things where I didn't mourn, so to speak, for lack of a better word.
Right.
So it wasn't till, because up until this point, I've been doing fasting consistently while we were together. So my change was gradual, and I didn't have a chance to really, while I was alone, to really figure out what was going on. It wasn't until after we had broke up that I was able to just, not have to, answer to anybody or, I had time to just think. I'm an introvert, and I'm always in here thinking and processing, or in my car thinking loudly. When I'm alone is when I can get the best thinking done. That's just how I do it. And recently I had a very emotional, I was fasting, and I had a very emotional outpouring. It was weird. I was just by myself, and I was thinking about her, and it was like I could finally feel what had happened. It's hard to explain.
No, that makes sense.
I wouldn't look at her pictures or anything before, but it's just like I just allowed myself to do it, and I could really feel it, and it's just like I could, instead of just compartmentalizing it in its perfect place, I could just be and just let it happen. And I just felt it, and I felt a lot better afterwards. After it happened, I just felt a lot better. And it was strange, but it was one of those things that, like I said, for me, while I was fasting, we were still together. So, there wasn't this lingering thing that had been going on for years and years. Like Chris was saying, for him, for me, it was very fresh. So it took some time for it to kind of manifest. But when it did, I was able to just feel it and let it go. And now it's like I can think about her in a different way, and it's not, I don't want to say painful, but it's just easier. Right. It's easier to process. And that's, again, when you do your fasting, you're letting these things go, and it's important to just be aware of the potential that could be. You don't want to necessarily just tuck things, sweep it under the rug or compartmentalize it perfectly. You want to allow yourself to feel it, because when you do, you can actually let it go after that. And I think the problem is that we just hold on to these things for dear life, and it affects us. And it'll just come out one day. You're just like, why am I crying? Why am I this? And why am I always angry? Why am I always upset? Or, and it's funny because when Chris said, his rain cloud, me from the outside looking in, I could tell the difference too. I was just like, yeah, he's, much more approachable, because he would always kind of be like, not just always upset, but like kind of like, okay, I mean, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, It's a good day.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit. I know, sorry, it's kind of all over the place, because there's been so much that just little things that happen, but that's one of the bigger things, and that's something that's really recent that's happened with me. Right. And it's it's funny because you might come to a realization that. It's funny because I thought I was ready to date again recently. I thought I was ready to date again. And it was somebody that came into my life, and I was just like, ooh, yeah, okay, I think I'm ready. But looking again now, it's just like, I don't feel like I'm actually ready to enter into that realm again. I feel like there's stuff that I still need to work out, but I wouldn't have not necessarily known that, but I feel like for me, the fasting is the thing that's really allowed that clarity of mind, or that emotional understanding to say, you know what? No, I thought I was, but I'm not. And that's okay. Yeah. And because of that, I enjoy my solace. I enjoy being alone, which is something that I struggled with for so many years. And now it's just like I really enjoy, because I'm learning me. I'm learning who I am, which, at almost 30, it's just like, you should already know. But, I spent so much time detoxing beliefs and just my physical body and, all these different things. It's like I have to kind of relearn, and that's, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I think one of the things that I love about this journey that we're going through is the extra time we have. Because, you know, you say at 25, you typically tend to be who you are, who you're going to be. And by the age of 30, if you're trying to rediscover yourself, it almost feels like a waste of time. But when you're fasting and you're eating healthy and you're doing all of these things, you are literally extending your lifespan. So we don't have to rush to do everything right now before we're 30 anymore. We can take our time. We can make mistakes. We can learn and grow without the pressure of, oh my God, I'm about to be 40 years old. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I'm not where I want to be in my career. What am I going to do? You know, like it's so much pressure on us. It's insane. And so for me personally, because I'm 33, y'all know I just had a birthday. I'm 33 and I don't have kids. I'm not married. Career-wise, I love what I do, but I still am growing and I'm still learning and processing that. And I'm probably going to end up doing something else in the future. But I'm not afraid of age anymore. I mean, we look pretty young, but that's because we are pretty young. You know, you are as young as you look and as young as you feel because your organs literally, as they age and they become decrepit, you outwardly start looking older. So if you look and feel young and vibrant, guess what? You are, right? The actual age or the number doesn't mean anything. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to mention because I just learned this, and I think it's important for you guys to understand. I've always wondered, why do we cry? It's just one of them things. You can feel sad, you can feel emotion, but why the tears? Yeah. What are the actual tears doing? You know, and one of the things that I'm learning with this health journey, especially learning about my hair and some of the other functions of the body, is that the body has no wasted movements, right? So you know, like anime terms, it has no wasted movements. It does not do anything for no reason. And what I learned recently is that the tears, it's an actual form of detoxification. The tears are literally detoxifying your emotions. It's your outward expression of a detoxification because all your emotions and everything, they're all chemicals. So the tears, just like the way that the fat cells use water to hold toxins and stuff like that, the tears are releasing the chemicals associated with whatever emotion you've got going on. And typically that's a good thing because stress is one of those things that chemically it expresses itself as cortisol, and cortisol can be very bad for you. It can be very, very bad for you. So if you can release stress, or if you can release anger, or if you can release, you know, whatever of the negative feelings that you're having through your tears, that makes tears very, very important. And that goes back to when we're young men, we're taught men don't cry.
There it is.
And so you start to see why we're taught these things. Society is trying to destroy us. Society is trying to break us down as individuals, right? They want us to be easily controlled. They want us to have all these problems, sicknesses, whatever. So they teach us these things. And I was telling one of my friends the other day, it's literally like whatever you are taught by society and mainstream, you almost have to do the reverse in order to do the healthy thing. Yeah. So they tell you men don't cry. That means that you need to cry. That's like the best thing you can do. So don't hold your emotions back. Don't hold your tears. That is the worst thing you can do for yourself. And this is like on a very chemical level, you know, on a very scientific level. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh yeah. And I have a great story about that. Well, it's an okay story. 6 out of 10. But still worth, I think, telling.
All right.
There was a span of time where I didn't cry, but I couldn't cry. I could not cry for about 4 or 5 years, which is a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like every day, you know, boo-hooing and stuff, but there are times where you need to cry because, like you said, and there is a very real, palpable emotional release when you cry. So I couldn't cry during this time. I experienced some things. Now, when I first moved to Texas, like I remember there was this woman I was trying to date and like I was really digging her and like we talked for like 6 months, and then just all of a sudden she told me she had a boyfriend. I was just like, oh, what? So I'm just like, I did the last 6 months. Who am I? Right. And I was just like really hurt by it. But it, bothered me, but I couldn't express it. And just things happen. Just over the years, things happen. And sometimes I would want to cry, and I would feel the pressure build up, and it would like almost come out, and then it would stop, and then I couldn't get it out.
Wow.
And it wasn't until my ex had something going on that was very serious, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was so scared, and I just wanted her to be well, and I finally was able to squeeze out some tears, like for the first time in 4 years, and I just felt this just massive rush of relief. I could like finally, and since then, I think I cried like another once or twice. I can't remember. But I was actually able to let it out. And it really dawned on me at that time just how important it was to actually physically cry, not just to lament and talk to somebody about it and to be sad about it. But
right.
No, forget that. You need the physiological release of letting those tears flow. For whatever reason, that just, like he said, there's no wasted movement. You're letting those tears come out, uplifts you in a way that talking and going and lift weights and running, it just doesn't do it. And it's one of those things where you've got to let it happen and accept it. And then when you feel things a certain way that make you feel strongly, like, let them happen. And since that happened, I said, I'm not going to hold back tears anymore.
Right.
Like if I go to a movie and it's just like, a Disney movie, perfect example. I saw Finding Dory. I saw Finding Dory when that came out. And there's a part just like, I was like, oh my gosh, the baby Dory is so cute. And I wanted to cry, but I held it back. But I was like, no, I can't do that anymore. So like, I think like one tear fell a little bit or something.
Single tear.
Like a single. But it's just like, but it's ingrained in us, especially men, to just like, oh, we don't cry. So we just hold that stuff back, and that is not good for you. You need to let it out. And, following your emotions, but you can't learn to follow your emotions and feel them if you're constantly stifling them. If you spent 30, 40, 50 years stifling your emotions and you finally let it out, it's going to be hard for you to like, okay, how do I really feel about this?
Right.
Like, how does it really make me feel? And not, how does it make, my belief feel? Like, does it conflict with my belief? Like, how does it make you feel emotionally? Because there's a difference. And that's another thing, being able to separate what you've been taught and your beliefs versus what you feel as a person,
right,
like who you really are. And that's the thing that I think is really important that you'll begin to grasp over time is, how do I feel about it versus how does my ego or what I've been taught or my belief system feel about it,
right.
and weighing the two. So just something to remember.
Yeah, that's deep. It made me think about maybe being a kid, or I'm sure you guys have experienced this where something happens to you. Maybe you're being bullied. It could be anything. And you feel terrible. You're sad, you're upset, you're frustrated. You go home, you cry your eyeballs out in the pillow, you fall asleep, and you wake up the next day and you just feel fine, And I don't know. I think we discount that. We discount that too often. So now I want to get a little bit more into when you guys are fasting, what are some of the things that you may experience? Because these are our experiences, and you guys actually might experience something completely different. But just because we don't necessarily talk specifically about what may happen to you, you need to understand that this is probably what's taking place. You're probably experiencing an emotional detox. So sometimes you may be reliving something traumatic that happened to you in the past. It doesn't have to be with an ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It could actually be some type of abuse that happened to you. I mean, let's just keep it real. This is the real world. Things happen. And one of the things that I learned early on about, forgiveness is when you forgive somebody, you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for you. And so part of this emotional detox is actually letting something go, physically letting something go that may have happened to you where someone has caused trauma to you in whatever way, whether it's emotionally, physically, mentally, and being able to let that trauma go will allow you to grow as an individual and move on and have healthy relationships in the future. You know, if you're a woman and you've been physically abused by a man and you can't seem to let that go, guess what? Whether you want to or not, you're going to take that to your next relationship. And every so often, that is going to rear its ugly head in your relationship with this new person who may have absolutely nothing to do with what happened to you, or may not ever even think of committing the same act toward you that this other person did, but you can't seem to let it go for whatever reason. So this is very vital. This is very, very vital. And one thing I want to mention again is you don't necessarily get this type of detox with your juice fasting, with Daniel fasting, with smoothie fasting, with intermittent fasting. You know, all I can say is that I know you will experience it with a pure water fast. But I can't guarantee you're going to experience this with a juice fast, even if you were to do a juice fast for 3 months. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Yeah, it's hard to say because the water fasting it's a more powerful process. I mean, than intermittent fasting, Daniel fasting, you know, the other things you mentioned. It's a more powerful process, and it's, you know, we don't have anything in you, or the less you have in you, your body just goes in. It takes the salt scrub, and it's just like cleaning you out, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally. It's cleaning you out. Right. And the more stuff you put in there, the more attention it diverts to these other things, and the less it puts on, you know, the detox thing. So, you know, you gotta, if a juice fast would work, maybe you have to go 3-4 months. Right. You know, instead of maybe water, because on water fast, 10 days or so and beyond, people start experiencing these kinds of things. So, you know, you gotta kind of weigh it, and just see. So that's a good point to bring up. When you're doing these types of fasts, you can't just do 3 days. You know, you might experience some portion of it, of course. And if you were to repeatedly do 3-day fasting, you may still experience some of these things. It's probably going to take much longer, but I know for me personally, I personally saw these types of things coming out in the longer 10+ days. I think that's 10+ days is a good mark to start with, to start to see some of this. And one thing that I've noticed is with juice fasting versus water fasting, in my opinion, is roughly 3 times more effective. You know, that's just what I tend to find. So once again, like John said, when you're just drinking water and your digestive system is not, you know, is inactive, it's going to kind of go into a healing crisis mode type thing. So it'll flush things out much more effectively. And you also got to look at the synergy that's happening in your body. You know, your body works together as one unit. We are taught that we have all these different organs, everything has a different job. That is wrong. That's just not true, okay? You can affect one organ in the body, and that organ will cause a rippling effect all the way from your spine to your brain to your feet, right? Like, it's all works together. So yeah, it's going to be much more powerful. I know I was talking to one of my friends the other day who recently started fasting, and one of the things, and it's kind of plays into what John mentioned earlier, was he was starting to question his relationship with his wife because, and Steve talked about this as well. Sometimes you can't see what's happening to you. Sometimes you can't see it. Sometimes you can't sense it. And when he started fasting, I think it just became very noticeable how unsupportive his wife was. Not just when it comes to fasting, but just in general, whenever he tries to teach her something new or whenever he's looking to learn something new, you know, he experienced all this resistance from her. And not even just resistance, she will sometimes go out of her way to try to prove him wrong without even fully understanding what it is that he's trying to explain or explore. And he's real. I mean, he's kind of like me. He's real. He's like, look, man, she needs to get it together, because if she doesn't get it together,
I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work out. And that's real. You know, we've been taught that when you get married, that's it. It's final. You can't get divorced because that's the Christian way, or that's what society expects of you. And we get trapped in these relationships where we're so unhappy. Now, I don't promote divorce or breaking up or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you realize that the person that you're with is not supporting you in the way that you need support, it may be a new discussion that you have to have with them. You know, okay, now we need to sit down. We need to figure out what it is. Why is it that you're always negative? Why is it that you don't want to grow, or that you're afraid of change or whatever? Like, why are you resisting so much? Is it possible for you to maybe look at doing some fasting so that we can work out this issue that I'm just now seeing? Yeah. Right? Because I guarantee you, him starting his fast is not the beginning of their problems. It's not even close. It's just him being able to see them for the first time, right? So we're in these relationships, we feel trapped, and we don't even know what's wrong. We're just not happy with each other for whatever reason. So you guys may experience that. Don't be afraid of that. Like, this is only a good thing, and it's all about perspective. You can see it as, oh, well, I don't want to feel like I don't want to be with my husband or my wife anymore. You could feel like that, or you could look at it as an opportunity to further your relationship, to actually bond and grow and create this wonderful relationship that you maybe never even knew was possible.
Right. To get to a point where you truly know who they are. And then you're like, wow, we're breaking new ground. And it's just like, I feel like I'm falling in love with you all over again.
Right.
I'd say that is actually pretty magical when you really think about it. Because you're like, you know, because the changes, when you start this process, the changes aren't bad. You know, when you detoxify your brain, you're like, oh my gosh, I can see that all the stuff that we've been doing is bad for us. And you have two people doing that, you're like, okay, this is better. Like, we're going to be better for each other now.
Yeah.
More understanding, more communication, less, you know, habits of just getting angry about silly stuff that, well, how did I get angry about that before? You know, you're going to be a better person, you know, mom, dad, husband, you're going to be better. And that's something that I think that's really overlooked. And that's a good point that you brought up, just because I thought that I was going to be married by the time I was like, you know, 27, 28. And I mean, thinking about that now, that would have been absolutely horrible if I got married at that time, because not even 2 years later, I'm a completely different person.
Right.
And if I'm who I am now, and my wife is who she was, but she wasn't on the same plateau, there would have been this, you know, this much space, and it would have been discord, and it would have been like, oh my gosh, and it would have failed anyway, because either she's going to meet me here or I'm going to meet her there. And I'm telling you this, I'm not going backwards. I'm not going to regress.
It's not happening.
It is not happening. I feel the best I've ever felt in my entire life. I'm healthier than I've ever been, and I'm emotionally more mature. I think clearer. Some things that maybe were a big deal aren't to me anymore. It's just like, that's not a big deal. You know, rushing to do, like you mentioned, rushing to have kids and to get married and all this stuff. I'm just like, why?
Right.
Why rush these things? You don't have to. And it's funny because I was reading a book, and it was the guy was saying in the book that men, well, he's talking about men specifically, because, but he was saying that men don't reach their intellectual peak until they're in their 50s. Is what he was saying. Yeah. You don't reach your intellectual peak till you're in your 50s. And he was just saying how much of a shame that was, because by the time you're in your 50s, now this is going on traditional knowledge and everything.
Right.
By the time you're in your 50s, you know, your health is declining. You don't have as much energy as you used to. You're not as driven, or, you know, or just whatever. All these things that kind of, it's just like as your intellectual peak goes up, you know, your energy and, you know, capability go down. Again, traditional beliefs and everything.
Right.
So, and, you know, if that's true, let's say like that's true, and men don't, you know, let's say people don't reach their intellectual peak until they're in their 50s. I mean, going by that scale, let me see, 50, that's adult. I'm 29, almost 30. I'm basically still a teenager intellectually. I'm still a teenager trying to figure out what it is that, that I want and what I'm doing. I've changed a lot, and I may change more. By the time I'm 35, I may change more, and I'm not afraid of that. And I'm actually,
it's exciting.
Yeah, it is really. It's really exciting to know that I've shed all those previous beliefs that were holding me back. They weren't serving me, and now it's just like I'm this new person, and I look at life with this gusto and vigor that wasn't there before, because I'm just dreading, I gotta do this job 9 to 5. I gotta, make sure I make this amount of money so when I get married, I can support this many kids, and, I'm doing all this other stuff. It's just like, it's prison. Like, it's
a mental prison.
It is. And when you say, you know what, forget all that, and you loose yourself of that, you feel free, and you can really enjoy life. And then when you're ready to settle down, when you're ready for that, it'll happen. You don't have to worry about, we're too old to have kids, because that's a bunch of malarkey. There's no limit.
No, there's no limit, guys.
You don't turn 30 and then all of a sudden all your eggs dry up. That's not how it works.
Right.
You can have kids whenever you're ready.
We only see that because of how unhealthy and toxic our bodies are. And the beautiful thing about it is you can regenerate those organs and, all of that stuff that we've been taught about losing the eggs and the sperm, and all of that it's all based off of modern man. And modern man is the most toxic version that we've ever seen. So we don't know how our regenerative capabilities work, because we don't see that happening. So before we wrap things up, I want to give you guys some real life examples.
Not yet.
Emotional detox has affected me, not just being, happier but just interacting with other individuals. So obviously you guys know the channel has been growing exponentially. The amount of comments that are left are, growing, and everything's happening, right? Well, obviously I'm getting more trolls, which is expected, and it's completely fine. One of the things that I've noticed is people will go out of their way to try to upset you. Period. That's just what they do. It could be because emotionally they're all messed up inside and they probably need a good fast. I don't know. Misery loves company. So they test me a lot, and they say things, really, really ignorant things. And it's so amazing for people to not have that control over me. Like, if you guys read my comments, you will pretty much never see where someone has really, really upset me or got me to the point where I'm frustrated or angry or, and it's like, this is the internet, and I'm going to get upset about what some troll says, and then I'm going to be mad for the rest of the day, and he's probably not even thinking about it anymore. Don't you hate that someone could have that control over you? That's infuriating. Like, I don't want someone to have that control over me. And guess what? They don't anymore. And that's new. That's not, if you would have known me 2 years ago, you could definitely get me riled up. You could say some really ignorant stuff, and you could get me riled up and get my blood boiling, and we may start arguing or whatever. And now it's just that doesn't happen. And I look at people differently, and I see that, they have all this toxic thinking, and, they're unhappy, they're traumatized. And so my perspective is different, and I can control my response. And so people don't have power over me. And that may be something that you guys could take to you when you go to work, when you're dealing with some of these snakes at work. I know we all deal with snakes at work. It's just, if you're going to be at work, there's a snake there. It's just the way it works. So I just wanted to share that, just because it's real. And I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything for this topic.
Yeah. Well, just to add a little bit, because that was a really good point. If you all haven't experienced that yet, it's a very freeing experience. Like, it's very freeing and for me, the way I do it is I look at things, and either I'll ignore it because I'll just oh my gosh, that's really ignorant, and I'll ignore it because, it doesn't serve me, or, I sometimes will just shout love back at them. I won't write it and say, whatever, but just my response internally will be, something just positive, because whether you believe in it or not, what you put out is what you get back. You know, we call it karma or dharma or, you know, whatever it is, the golden rule, whatever. But whatever you put out, that's what you get back. And that's why it's so important for, like he was saying about forgiveness. It's not for the other person, it's for you. Because if you're constantly angry and you think of that person and it just makes your blood boil and you're just upset, like you're just going to constantly get more of it. It'll be a never ending cycle, and it doesn't do anything to serve you well. It's just going to break you down. And that's what the forgiveness is for. It's for you. So when I see things like that, it's just, you know, I hope that you get well. I hope that you feel better. I hope that whatever happened to you, I hope that you overcome it. I hope that, you know, one day that you'll learn to be a better person, maybe to, you know, to start showing love to other people instead of shouting hate at them. You know, I'll speak life into people. They don't know it, but, you know, but it's for me, because I know whatever I put out, that's what I get back. So, you know, for me, as far as 2018 goes so far, it's been a great year so far. It's, you know, it's beginning.
Just beginning.
But, you know, I think that's a good lesson for us all. You know, when somebody starts to test you, if they try, just shout love at them back.
And it's the thing that I've noticed is their response is like, it completely changes. They're like, well, I didn't really mean it like that. And, you know, your videos are great. Like, I've seen that happen so many times. And I'm just like, wow, like, did I just overcome this and even maybe do something for them, and they'll make them feel a little bit better about themselves. I don't know. I mean, it's just their attitude seems to change. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. You know, you guys have been asking for it. We try to do what you want. If you guys want to suggest more videos, different topics for us to cover, especially if you want to see more of this guy, let me know. Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys go and check out the Facebook group. It is amazing. You have to come and experience it. It's like no other group on Facebook that I've ever been in or heard about. You have the freedom to express your ideas, your thoughts, and honestly, like, as long as you're respectful about it, I don't have any problems. If you guys want to start debates, that's fine too. Be respectful about it, and we're all good. We're all learning. And I love hearing you guys' point of view and sharing the experiences. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power, and we will see you guys